Getting started with Blender can be really daunting, even if you have experience using other 3D modeling software. So today, I'm going to run through a bunch of simple tools. As you can see, I have a default cube, but with it I have these two meshes, and those there are from Polyhaven. I have a HDRI downloaded, this root cluster downloaded, and this boulder. And the reason I downloaded this boulder was because I want this robot to be kind of like the cookie robots from Despicable Me, but with a rock instead. So getting started on our robot, I'm first going to select my rock, as I want this to be the body of my robot, and I'm going to press the backslash. Now this will select this object as the only thing visible in my viewport for right now. Now I'm actually going to press Alt-G to put this back at the origin. With my 3D cursor at the world origin and the rock just above it, I can press Shift-A to add a shape that I want. Now I'm actually going to add a meta ball, and I'm going to add a ball. Now you can see this is big. I'm going to scale it down with S. But what we have here is a sphere, but it's got this sort of outline around it, and that indicates that this is a meta ball. And if I duplicate this meta ball, you can see these two shapes merge into each other. Now I'm going to use that to create a sort of organic, almost cloud-like body shape, because I want this to be a little bit cartoony, and I think that that is perfect. Now I can select all these meta ball shapes and then press F3 and search up convert, and here you see convert to mesh. These are going to turn my meta balls into a mesh, and you can see all those extra lines went away. And if I press tab to go into edit mode, you can see the topology might not be great, but this is all one solid piece now. Now for what I'm doing today, I think this is actually fine topology. It doesn't need to be good, it's not going to deform. But I do want it to smooth a bit, so I'm going to press Control and 1 on my keyboard, and you can see that smoothed it out. If you press Control and spacebar, you can open up a single window, and I'm going to close that so that I can see the rest of this here. And I'm going to click on this modifiers tab. You can see when I did Control 1, I applied one level of viewport subdivision to this object. If I crank that up, it'll be smoother, but I think 1 is good. It'll render as 2 in my final render, and I think that that's acceptable. Now I'm going to move on to the legs. So hovering over my viewport again, I'm going to press Control spacebar. That's optional, I just like to do that. I'm going to press N as well to get rid of that menu up there. And off to the side here, I'm going to press Shift and right click to drop my 3D cursor here. And I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add, this time, a cube. You'll see why, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a cube. I'm going to add the legs, and I'm going to do that simple cartoon style of legs where it's a bunch of tubes connected by ball joints. And my ball joint is going to be a cube. And to make this cube more of a ball, I'm going to do Control, and I'm going to do 2 levels of viewport subdivision. I think that for what I'm doing here, this is an acceptable ball. It's not a perfect sphere, but that's okay. Now pressing tab to go back into edit mode, I'm going to duplicate this ball, right click to drop it back in its place. I'm going to scale it down, and then I'm going to scale it along the Y. Now I'm going to move it along the Y so that the end is in the ball. Now if you press Alt-Z, you will go into this sort of X-ray view. It makes it a lot easier to see inside your model. And I'm going to press Control and R to add an edge loop. Now once I add this edge loop, I can right click to drop it right back in the center, and I can do Control B to bevel this. Now I can basically just bevel this all the way to the edge. I really just wanted to add one edge loop towards this end and one edge loop towards this end so that I could make this be a bit more of a tube shape. Now I'm going to press Alt and Z again to exit this X-ray mode, and I'm going to right click and shade smooth. That's all it takes to make a basic joint segment for our legs. Now I think this is a little bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down. And so that the textures aren't scaled incorrectly later, I'm going to press Control A, and I'm going to apply scale. I'm going to need to do more for texturing. I'm not going to be UVing this. I'm just going to do so without. Just keep it simple. Now that I have this one leg segment, I'm going to go back into the X-ray mode just to make this a little easier. And I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate it. And then I'm going to press Y to move this along the Y-axis. And I'm going to put it right there. I think that's good. Now I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode again, and I'm going to select these vertices at the edge here, and I'm going to just move them in. I want this leg segment to be a little bit smaller maybe. And I want another leg segment, so I'm going to move this over here, maybe in edit mode. I'm going to always do your scaling in edit mode. I'm going to scale this ball joint down just a little bit, and I'm going to scale this leg joint down just a little bit. Now you can see if I scale this down too much, it removes it from the joint. But if I scale and then press Shift Y, I scale along everything except the Y-axis. If I were to scale along the Y, I can do that. Shift Y, everything but Y. So S, Shift Y, scale that down just a bit. I think that's good. Now, X-ray mode to get those vertices back there. I want this leg segment to be quite long. Now I'm going to duplicate this, I'm going to duplicate this leg segment again. This time I want the leg segment to be shorter, and I want this to be the foot. So to give a cool foot shape, also to go into the side orthographic view there, I pressed tilde, and then it opens up this pie menu, and you can go right, left, top, bottom, or go into the camera view, view the selected, back, and front. So if you're used to pressing F in Maya to view your selected, it's tilde, and then just drag your mouse down here, and that'll bring you to it. Now I'm going to scale this face down. I'm going to go back into this right orthographic view, and I'm going to drag this surface up to about here. And now Control R to add another edge loop. I'm going to add an edge loop in the middle. I'm actually going to rotate that so that it's facing more that direction. And I'm going to plop the edge around there. Now you can see that with the subdivision, this is actually looking pretty good. It's pretty smooth. I kind of wanted this to be kind of like almost a mosquito leg where they kind of bend outwards. But if this wasn't smooth enough, I could take this edge and then Control B to bevel it. And if you scroll on the scroll wheel, you can add more loops. But I think that this is actually perfect as is. So now we need to connect our legs so that when you move one, it moves the rest. So I'm going to start with the foot, and I'm going to shift click one segment up and press Control P. Now this will parent. Now everything is where I want it to be, so when I parent it, I want to parent it to the object, and I want to keep the transformation. I like where it is right now. I want to keep that. Now I'm going to go up one more segment, take this next section, select one segment up, Control P, keep object, or keep transformation. One last time, Control P, object, keep transformation. Now I can rotate this leg and it will rotate everything else. I can rotate this leg segment, it'll rotate everything down. This is forward kinematics, simple parenting, works good enough. So I'm going to select everything here, and I want, let's see, these bumps can be where the legs come out of. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 by the looks of it. So I want 5 legs. 1, 2, 4, 5. Now this is where the 3D cursor becomes very, very helpful. And you know what? I want to scale these legs down a bit. So I'm going to select just this base of all of these and just scale it down a little bit. That's good. Now I said always scale in edit mode, and that's not what I did. So I'm going to select all of these and press Control A and apply the scale. That'll apply the scale as if I applied the scale inside of edit mode. Now using my 3D cursor, I'm going to click where I want the leg to be. So that's Shift right click. Now that I have my 3D cursor where I want it to be, I'm going to select one of these topmost leg segments, and I'm going to press Shift S. This will open up another pie menu, and I'm going to do selection to cursor. That's going to plop this leg segment right where I want it to be. Shift right click, selection to cursor. shift right click, selection of cursor, shift right click, selection of cursor, shift right click, selection of cursor. And now I'm gonna go into the top view and I'm just gonna manually rotate all of these. To face out. Whoops, that one's supposed to be that. Okay. And now I'm gonna just adjust some of these because I'm not loving the location of all of them. But I think that is pretty good. So now all these legs are in place. I still want to attach this body to the rock. But first I'm going to attach all these legs to the rock. Control P, keep transformation, perfect. And in fact, I still think that this body plane is a little bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Control A, apply scale. In fact, I'm going to apply that to everything, apply scale. And now I'm going to take this body segment, I'm actually going to tuck it up into the rock a bit more, and then shift click on the rock, Control P, parent object, keep transformation. Perfect. Now I'm going to press Control Spacebar to get out of there. I'm going to take this window, I'm going to drag it down, just it's a little big. I'm going to press on the backslash again, and this is going to bring my objects back. Now I actually don't need this cube, so I'm just going to delete it. And I am going to take my root system thing here. I'm going to do Alt G, that's just going to flop it back on its origin. I'm going to take my rock robot. I think that my rock robot is a little bit big right now, so I'm going to scale it down. In fact, you can see this rock is super high poly. I'm going to rotate this rock maybe a little bit. No, I changed my mind, I don't like that. I'm just going to scale down my rock robot. Now there's one thing that I forgot to do earlier, and that was apply a material to all of our robot pieces, but luckily that's easy enough. I'm going to go to this boulder in my hierarchy up here. I'm going to click on the arrows next to it. It's going to open up more things. I'm going to select this meta ball. That was this torso section. I haven't named everything, that's okay. I'm going to select the hierarchy. That's going to select all of the robot pieces. And I'm going to go to a material and I'm going to create a new material. Now this is only going to apply on this torso section, the section that is highlighted in yellow. That's okay. We're going to make a new material. Let's call this robot material. And I'm going to, with everything selected here that I want this material, I'm going to do Control L and I'm going to link materials. Now everything has this robot material applied, which is perfect. So I'm going to scale this robot guy down a little bit more. I think maybe I want this robot to be standing up top here maybe. Yeah, maybe up top, that would look good. And now I want to position the legs where I want them. If I just rotate these legs along the x-axis, you can see that doesn't look quite good. I need to rotate them along their own individual x-axis. So I'm going to change from global to local coordinates up here at the top. Now I can rotate along the x-axis for all of these legs, and it'll be good. And if this isn't working, maybe you just have to rotate your legs along the y-axis. Maybe you haven't rotated 90 degrees from how I did, and that's okay. So I am first going to take these secondary segments, and I'm going to bend all these down. Now we're not going to be rigging or anything, we're just going to be posing this for fun. So take that up a little bit more, bend this down, bend that way, and boom, that's right on the surface there, that's fine. Now these front legs might have to bend down a bit more. I I think I'm gonna have my robot standing on these root sections over here. So I'm actually going to plop my robot right there. This leg needs to go higher. This leg needs to go out more. In fact, I think I'm actually gonna have this come up and then this one come in, just like that. And I'm just going to mess with all of these legs until I'm happy enough with their placement. And I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to Shift A, add a camera. Now you might have already had a camera if you didn't delete it at the beginning. That camera plop down there. Now this photo, I actually want to take this photo as a square. So I'm going to go over here to the output, and here we can see the resolution. I'm going to select both of these, and now they're both going to be 1920. That's a little bit high resolution. I'm going to do 1080. Now I will be making a square photo. And again, that was tilde, opens up this pie menu, view camera. And the best way to move the camera, in my opinion, is to press Shift and tilde. And you will see crosshairs appear at the center. And if you move the mouse around, you can see you're moving around like a first-person view game. Q and E will raise and lower the camera, WASD to walk around. And you can fly around, get to a location you like, and then left click. And if you are flying around and you get to a location that you don't like and you just want to go back, you can simply right click and you will pop back to what you were. So I'm going to press Shift tilde to go into first person view. I'm going to lower down to a good angle. I think this might be good. And now I'm going to go to the rendered view. And now I can go to the rendered view. You can also go into the different render settings. You can also change your viewport renderer with Z. Holding Z, you can go to the rendered, solid, material, or wireframe. But I want to be in rendered. I just want to see what's in the camera, but as you can see, all this junk outside of the camera is also still being rendered, and that's taking up resources. So I'm going to press Control B, and these crosshairs will appear. You can drag over the camera, and that'll only focus on what the camera is seeing. So that'll help this render a little bit faster. Now I'm going to go to my world settings, and I'm going to click this yellow dot next to color, and I'm going to change it to an environment texture. Everything is going to turn pink, that's fine. You're going to open this up, and you're going to select an HDRI. I downloaded an HDRI from HDRI Haven, so I'm going to find that. I've never used this HDRI, it's very pretty. Oh wow, I like this. So now that I'm in this very scenic location, I can check out how it looks. Now I actually like the way that the sky looks in the background. I think that that's pretty cool. But if I didn't like that, I could go to the object, go to the world settings, and that's gonna pull up. Now this is gonna look quite different than what you have because I have a custom setting. This isn't doing much. I'm gonna delete this. That's just there in case I wanted it. This is what you're gonna have. Now what I recommend is you go to Edit and Preferences, Add-ons, and you will see Node Wrangler. Here it is, Node Wrangler. This is super, super helpful. I would enable that. What this allows you to do is it allows you to grab an image, press Control and T, and it'll bring up mapping and texture coordinates. That's just easier than adding in the mapping and the texture coordinates node. And you use these a lot, so it's really nice to have those on hand. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Z rotation value, and I'm going to start dragging that up. And you can see that the HDRI in the background starts to rotate. So if you wanted a different angle in the HDRI, that's how you could do it. Now, I like this as it is. But I kind of wish I had some sunlight. So I'm going to press Shift A and add a light sun. It's not doing much now, so I'm going to increase the strength. And I'm even going to give it a little hue, a little bit of a yellow-orange hue. And if you double click R, it'll open up a little bit of a different rotation setting that can be kind of useful for quick adjustments. And I'm going to get into the camera and I'm going to find an angle for the shadow that I like, keeping in mind that I don't want to vary too far from what my HDRI has depicted, but luckily I think that that's pretty good. The sun is sort of that direction, that kind of matches what I'm doing, so I think everything should be okay. In fact, I think that that looks pretty good. So I'm going to take my robot material and let's just do something simple. So I'm going to have to go back to the object mode. We have our BSDF here. I'm going to make it a little bit more, I actually don't know what I want to do here. Maybe I want to make it look sort of this rocky sandy color. I'm going to take my base color. I'm going to take this eyedropper and you can click and drag. So as you can see, I can click and drag. It'll kind of get a smear of all of these colors. If I were to do this blue, you can see this is blue. If I keep adding this in, it'll get darker. So yeah, I'm just going to get a mix of browns, maybe from up here. That's too dark. But yeah, these browns around here. Now this doesn't look very good, honestly. So I'm going to increase the metallic, decrease the roughness, and now it's sort of this copper. I think that actually looks pretty cool. Blends in, but, oops, I just clicked those arrows there. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to press Control T, which is going to try to put an image on it. That's okay. I'm going to get rid of that image. Again, that was using Node Wrangler. I just wanted these texture coordinates and mapping. Because what I'm going to add is a noise texture. And I want the vector in there. And then I can plug this into the roughness. It's going to be too much right now. So let's get a color ramp. And let's bring these black values up. We want more shiny. But I'm also going to add some of this roughness back in. Bring the black up. And now you can see here, I'm just going to highlight on an area here. This ball joint has shiny parts and it has matte parts now. So I'm going to get this whole view back in. And that will just help it look a little bit better. And it's still just a little bit too uniform, so I'm even gonna take a bump node. I'm gonna take this factor and put it in the height and put this normal in the normal. Now I'm actually just going to press the backslash just so that I can see this one joint segment. And I'm going to swap from the UVs, because I have not UV'd this, to the object. Now this will not work if the items are deformed, but I'm not planning on animating this. I'm planning on simply taking a render, so this is more than adequate. And I think that'll look a little bit better. And now you can see there's sort of this splotchiness along all of them. In fact, I think that's a little bit too much with the matte, so I'm gonna drag that back a bit. And more should be happening with this bump. Let's increase the distance. That's too much. I think that's perfect. So now you can see it's reflecting as if this is not perfectly straight. It's close to it, but it's a little bit bumpy. I think that's perfect. Now, I'm going to experiment, mess around, some different camera angles and stuff. Maybe, what if I came all the way back here, went to my camera, and increased the focal length? I don't know that I like that. you know, I kind of like the look of having this bush off to the side. The problem is that this bush doesn't look great under these lighting conditions that I have set. So I'm going to bring in a bush. This is also from Polyhaven. However, I am just going to steal it from a previous thing. You can see here, this is another little robot I made using the same little root system here. And I'm going to just select this bush, Control C, go back to my robot, Control V. Now I have this bush in this scene. And I basically want to obstruct this photo of the tree and replace it with this bush tree because it will have accurate lighting. And I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to rotate a bit, scale it to get a little bit of a denser foliage. And I think that's fine because we will be blurring this background as well. And we can do that right now. We can go to motion blur. That's not it. We want to go into the camera settings. Camera, depth of field. And for our focus object, I'm just going to click on this rock thing here. I'm going to bring down the f-stop. You can see with an f-stop of 0.1, it's actually quite extreme. So I'm going to bring that back up just a bit. And I think that is looking pretty good. In fact, I think I want more going on with this bush. So I'm going to have it come in there, closer to the camera. That way we can get some blur all across. That's good. And I like this sort of these diagonals that are implied. There's a diagonal going in this direction. There's a very strong diagonal going in this direction that pushes towards our focal element. So I like our composition here. Now we can do some final finishing touches. I'm going to go to the compositor. You're going to open the compositor and you're going to want to click use nodes. That should be up here. I already have this set up as a default, but I can get rid of this denoiser node and I can add a lens distortion. I think a distortion of maybe 0.1 and a dispersion of 0.14 would be good. I kind of just made those numbers up based on experience. I also want, whenever you're using distortion, I usually like to fit it. It just looks a little better. And you can see what that does if I press F12 to render this image out. So comparing this image when plugged directly in to this image with the distortion, you can see a little bit of a pop. It's subtle. If I were to crank this up, it's more obvious what's going on. I don't want to crank it up. Now, if you click on a node and press the backspace key, it'll simply reset it. So I want distortion of 0. In fact, maybe I don't want distortion at all. I just want dispersion. I think that's perfect. So I'm going to go to the render, and I actually want to increase my render samples. I'm going to pump these to 512 samples just for our final result. And I'm going to go to the sun. I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit. Sometimes I think that this looks pretty good. So if you increase the exposure and then if you go to the render settings, come down to color management, you can decrease the scene exposure and you end up with a much higher contrast image where those darker values really get darker. And I think that this looks pretty good. And there's my little tutorial on making simple little robot guys in Blender. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you continue to enjoy using Blender.